Hi, this is Scott Kilos here at 6 Delta Alpha Yankee, and for today's video I wanted to do a follow-up on something that I mentioned in the review video for the HA1 Golf, and that is aftermarket antennas. Now, I talked a bit about the antenna being part of the waterproof equation or the IP67 equation on this radio, and the more I look at it, the more I think that's actually very true, because after the video, when I was reviewing it, I did take a closer look at the antenna, and there is definitely a gasket kind of arrangement here, the way it's designed. And one other thing is, you'll note this antenna connection sits way higher than most other radios. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that in order to make sure that your radio maintains its IP67 protection, that I'm pretty certain it's a must that this factory antenna needs to be on the radio, because any other antenna you put on here, even if you take measures to gasket it yourself, I still think you might have a water intrusion issue. Although I could be wrong, this could be sealed at the bottom, but I wouldn't want to risk that. And because the factory antenna is adequate to task as far as the GMRS stuff goes, I'd say if I was using this in a situation where it was likely this is going to be exposed to a lot of water, I would just stay with the factory antenna. Now, if you are of the sort that you don't really picture yourself getting this thing too wet, or the most you're worried about is something like a rainy situation, and that's really all you need to protect this against, this is something I came up with. And I think it looks good, and it actually likely works pretty good. So what we've got here, and let me show you the problem first. So when you take a typical antenna, like this is a Nagoya NA701, a little different than the ones you would put on a Baofeng, because the SMA connection is different. The center conductor pin is actually on the antenna instead of the radio. But let's see if we can see this. Hopefully you can see in there. Let me get a pointer here, but there's a pretty definite gap all the way along here. And if you were in rain, it would allow rain to actually pool up in this housing, this little raised area right here. So there's a definite gap, and it's even worse with the diamond antennas. With the diamond antenna, you can actually see all the way through from the front of the radio. So it's an unsightly gap. It works. So if you're in a situation where you just want a little bit better reception and you want to throw a whip antenna on here and you don't care how it looks, fine, party on, go for it. But I thought I'd come up with something that might bridge the gap and both remove that gap for aesthetic purposes, but also provided a little bit of rain protection. So what I've found, and if you go to Lowe's, and what I got this out of actually, and unfortunately I cannot find the box, but I bought a box of rubber bushings and grommets from Harbor Freight. I have it listed in another video. I'll see if I can find the part number for that box, but it was like $6 or something for all kinds of different sized grommets and rubber rings like this. And I found this one that was just about the perfect size. And what it does, it just simply drops in, and it's just a little bit undersized from the actual dimensions of this ring here on this built up structure, but it's close enough so that when I screw the antenna down, it makes contact. And then as I seat the antenna to its bottom point, it actually pushes that ring out a little bit. So now I've got that gap completely filled all the way around. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that it's probably as gasketed as the original antenna would be, or close to it, at least enough for me to go out on a limb with it. I'm not by any means saying your radio is now IP67. But I would be okay myself, personally, just for me, my own personal decision, taking this out in the rain like this. But as I said, it looks pretty good, and it fits that gap nicely. And I will say, there is a little bit of an improvement whenever you go to an aftermarket antenna like this over the factory antenna. And anecdotally, I'll say I've seen just about that, a little bit of improvement. But where I think I'm going to get some mileage out of this is in terms, well, let me go ahead and put that on, because I'm just going to leave it like that. So I think, for further testing is probably going to yield that this is across the board going to be a better antenna. If it's just a marginal improvement, well, it's an improvement. And any marginal improvement, like I say, is still an improvement. So for me, at least, it's worth doing. But I thought I'd throw that out there real quick. But again, going back to the original factory antenna, if you're 100% dead set that you must have a radio that's submersible, I would stay with the factory antenna. So if you're a kayaker or a boater or somebody that, you know, their radio's likely going to take a dunk, stay with this. For the rest of it, this might get the job done as well. So I will bring it to a close. Thank you for watching and or listening. This is Scott, Kilo Sierra 6, Delta Alpha Yankee from Visalia, California. Have a wonderful day.